Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a CavEQ boss takedown run, and at the end I'll add my thoughts about the new CavEQ layout with the crossfights and all of that for the month. Of course it's not going to be the same every month. They've said it'll be on rotation with the other formats they've had already in the past. It's just to offer something fresh and new, make it a bit different, but we'll get into that at the end. So first up we've got the Luke Cage boss, probably the hardest boss in the entirety of this month's EQ, and the one, because he's in the first quest, that was giving people a lot of problems. And as you can see there, he gave me a little bit of a scare at the start, but this is my third run at him when I recorded this. The first time I got a very clean full yellow bar solo with Scarlet Witch. I just forgot to record, and then eventually was like, you know what, when I get around to doing EQ a bit more, giving it a proper run, then I can try and record all the boss takedowns and make a little video out of it. So here we go with Scarlet Witch again. I'm just kind of taking raw attempts. I think I do actually get solos on all 6 in this video, so that's always great. But of course, I've always said on my channel, I don't have the time to really sit around and perfect solos. There's plenty of other channels to showcase really good solos. I like to kind of stick to showcasing raw footage on mine, just to be slightly more realistic with it, I guess. Not that I have anything against the perfect solos, because they're always great ways to model yours off. But anyway, this is my attempt, as you can see, getting that solo here with a full yellow still. So with Scarlet Witch here, it's just, you can nullify all his armors that he gets with the node. When he has an armor, he's unblockable. That's part of the buffs. He also goes unstoppable every now and then if you're close to him. So when that timer for the unstoppable finishes, you want to be keeping your distance so you get the unstoppable instead. He's also got death touch, so after he throws a special, don't get hit, and his specials are so easy to evade and also punish, so you can literally stay away from it, get in, get your combo, and then just land your parry, because if you get a combo with someone like Scarlet Witch, you're nullifying the armor and you don't have to worry about him being unblockable. If you're using someone else where he has the armor and is unblockable, then of course you want to stay away from him while he has death touch, or just nail your parries, because those are fine. It's only if he manages to hit you it's an instant death, as the name Death Touch suggests. So that's boss number 1. Okay, so there's quite a few notes on the bosses this month. So this tigra has Stampede, which means every time she blocks one of your attacks, she gains a charge. For each of these charges, her attack and power rate go up. And essentially, if you block bait a heavy of hers and then interrupt her heavy, you can then convert those charges, all get removed from her, and they become an unblockable buff for yourself, which lasts longer based on how many charges you built up. There's also right back at it. There's power shield, so she'll go debuff immune when you knock her down from right back at it. Power shield means only your specials will deal 400% more damage. Everything else is gimped to 0 damage, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's just obviously Nova Flames, as you can see here, will bypass that, and also right back at it as well, because it's not a debuff. Don't eat the heavies, that's not good. But yeah, special ones as well are enhanced in damage because of the node. But yeah, it's one of those ones where Torch just melts this. You really don't have to pay much attention compared to maybe with other champs. Oh yes, she also has Arrogance, so she can falter you. Again, Torch gets around that, so he really is the perfect counter with prefight for this. Which is, in a sense, almost a shame, because this is something DLL mentioned once in a chat when we were talking about this month's EQ. It's a shame that the boss wasn't more geared to the champs you're actually bringing in for the quest, but it is what it is. We have Yondu up here third, and the main things to pay attention to here are Matador. Every time he throws a special, that's how you gain a bar. So of course, try and bait his special ones anyway. They are the easier one to bait out of his specials, but of course the more specials you bait, the more power you get. So yeah, you just want to keep baiting special ones, because obviously if he throws a special 2, you're still only gaining 1 bar, and like I said, it's harder to get away from. There's also another one where every time he places a debuff on you, he gets a little power gain passive, so that can actually be used to your favor if you maybe just block and let him hit your block and get a bleed or something on you. Then that will actually give him a bit more power, which, if you need the power from him throwing a special, could be used to your advantage. But obviously, yeah, you don't really want to just stack bleeds up on yourself. But yes, the taunt actually helps towards that, because that's another node here, which the actual taunt itself doesn't really matter. Every time I think you gain a bar of power, he places a taunt on you. So that by itself doesn't really matter. It's just that it works kind of alongside that other one where it provides a debuff on you to give him power gain. So yeah, that is something to watch for. Other than that, really not a difficult boss. Yeah, like I say, you know, this one actually I was just looking forward to, because with Matador I was planning to just, you know, play it into Peni, who I brought for the quest as well, because she was one of the champs benefiting from the global. So I had a lot of fun with her here. She's currently rank 2 and in contention to be my next tech rank 3, and likely will, because I did set a Silver Centurion over her, both unduped. So yeah, I just felt Silver Centurion probably edged it because of that. But yeah, it's between her and Ultron really, but Ultron's rank 1, she's rank 2, and I really enjoy playing her. So yeah, there's a good chance she'll be next up. But yeah, getting back to the actual Cav EQ itself, as you can see here, she works brilliant for this. She also works brilliant for the path. I recorded a couple fights from that. I haven't put that into this because I might, you know, kind of small spoiler, but I might eventually get around to making a Penny Parker video. I'll see. If I do rank her up, then I might get a range of gameplay from when she was lower ranks, from early testing to then being a bit more, what's the word, fluid with her, yeah, and understanding her a bit better. But anyway, that was boss number 3. Let's get on to boss number 4. Okay, so boss number 4 is Quake. She's got Dizzy, which means every time she evades, she places a disorient on you. She also has evasive maneuvers, which means when you knock her down, she then gains an evade chance. She has Make a Stand, which means she has protection until you knock her down, so you can start to see how these are all playing together. She also has Hard Knock Life, which means every time you do perform a parry on her, you're going to gain Disorient, and has Stun Vulnerability. So as you can see, you want to parry her for Stun Vulnerability, and then that's where the Hard Knock Life comes into play as a disadvantage. You also want to knock her down to remove protection, but then when you do that, she gains an evade charge, and also with Dizzy can put Disorient on you. So there's also another one where if she fails to evade due to you having True Strike or true Accuracy, she'll get a power gain instead. But yeah, Nick Fury is the one I've gone with. As you can see there, I just deliberately took a beating at the start to send him straight into his second life. You know, it's EQ, it's not war or anything. I don't need to play it safe. I'll just go straight into his second life, make this as quick as possible for myself. And yeah, so that True Strike to your accuracy that I talked about, preventing evades and giving her a power gain, it also says in the note that skill champs can't trigger that. But yeah, Nick probably wouldn't trigger that anyway because his evade counter is his tactical charges. But as you see, a nice simple fight really, and yeah, not a lot to say on that. So next up we have the 5th boss, which is Nick Fury. And yeah, so here's a few kind of nothing nodes. He gets a Fury buff chance if you strike him. He also has a Disorient that he places on you if you dash back twice in a short window. He has a thing as well, if you bring a bleed immune champ, then there's a 75% chance for him to gain a tactical charge, reduced to 25% chance if you bring a mutant. So those, they really don't mean much at all. So the main things here are clapback, which as you can see I'm using Sunspot for, and is a node that he absolutely loves and benefits from because it just keeps fueling his heat charges, solar charges, something like that. I can't remember the name. It's been a while since I've used him, to be fair, but yeah, this was a lot of fun with him. And then there's another node called Surge Protector, I think something along those lines. But essentially what that does is every time you hit them, they gain a charge called a Surge Charge. And yeah, when someone throws a special, there will be an effect based on the number of Surge Charges. So if the defender throws a special while the charges are on them, then they'll gain back power based on the number of Surge Charges, I believe. However, if you throw it, then you do damage back to them based on the number. So yeah, again, I'd say that's almost like a nothing node as well. It's really not anything. The main thing is just making sure you're wary of the fact that there's clapback, and I found this really nice here actually. This didn't happen on some of my previous runs, but because I was kind of in the flow as he went into his second life. The incinerates that I put straight back up on him after he shrugged them off going into second life, they just cut off his healing. So that was really nice and made this even quicker. But yeah, Sunspot was a brilliant counter, and yeah, it was nice to get him back out into content again. Have some fun using him. So yeah, that was boss number 5. The final boss is Kraven. So he has catatonic, which means every time you're inflicted with a root effect, you also get a disorient passive on you. He has scared stiff, which means every 8 seconds he puts that root effect on you for 4 seconds, which can be removed by hitting him. And then he has mighty charge and stage fright as well. So stage fright just means every time you throw a special, you then have a timer where you can't throw another one, or if you try to, you take some damage back. But yeah, none of that really matters at all. If you go into this with a hard-hitting cosmic, you build up their furies on the path by playing into the global node. It is just light work. So I have seen Corvus takedowns like this. I've seen Cosmic Ghost Rider takedowns. I am sure there's probably quite a few. I'm sure a ramped up Morningstar could probably put in some work. I mean, yeah, it's nothing too difficult really. But that's it. That's all the bosses soloed. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. And yeah, I know at my level of the game, there's not too many people who would find boss like guides very useful. So I try not to go into too much detail of them. As cav EQ is not the most difficult thing in the world, but I feel like it's still kind of nice. I know I enjoy watching people's boss takedowns, because then, especially if you leave EQ towards the end of the month and you're rushing through, it's nice to just have a quick look sometimes and see what options people have used, so you're aware and ready to do your own quick attempt to rush through it. But as well, for lower players who maybe check out my channel, people who are newer, when I say lower players, I mean like newer cav players, or people with slightly smaller rosters. Yeah, hopefully this maybe provides some slightly different counters to what is already available. I haven't really checked out all the CavEQ boss videos yet, but anyway, I hope it was enjoyed regardless. But yeah, just to round this one off, as I mentioned earlier in the video, what are my thoughts on the new CavEQ format for this month? Overall, I would say really good idea. I think the whole crossfights thing is kind of nice, because I think as some people have touched upon, you can actually carry that global positive effect that you've been working on playing around with your champs. You can actually take that into the boss fights. The only thing is, like, the boss fights could have been designed perhaps a bit more to actually benefit the champs that you're bringing for that global from the pool that have been selected. I think, for example, looking at my boss fights today, I used Scarlet Witch for the Luke Cage, I used Peni Parker for the Yondu, and then Corvus for the Kraven. But for the other 3 bosses, I didn't. The Nick Fury, the Quake, and the Tigra, I brought in someone else specifically for them. So perhaps a better job can be done balancing that there, so that you're actually encouraged to use the same pool of champs you've been using on the paths for the boss. And then that also perhaps makes it easier for people with slightly smaller rosters to not have to bring a specific boss counter. But then as for the actual pools themselves, that is where, some of them are really good, but then the Merc quest, for example, I found I'm still exploring EQ, but I found that one was quite rough. And it's the first month, so we got to cut Kabam some slack here as well. It's the first month trying it out. They'll refine it, they'll make it better, and overall I think it's a positive step for encouraging wider use of our rosters, bringing in the less typical champs that we use to crush everything else. And yeah, it's a step in the right direction, but perhaps make the pools a bit wider, because this is still Cavalier difficulty, right? So you've got new Cav players coming into this who perhaps don't have as extensive as a roster, and so it should really take them into consideration with how wide these pools are. Perhaps we'll finally see a Thronebreaker difficulty or something to come sooner rather than later, because I do feel like if they're going to release it later down the line, it's just it's already probably going to be outdated if it comes out. But who knows, when the next title maybe comes, they'll maybe look to then do something right after that. Who knows? But as for the pools, I think it was the Merc one in particular that stood out to me as one that was a bit narrow. I, for example, used Domino, Flaming Trinity, so it was just Domino mostly with her counterparts for a few bits, but the main carry champ for me was my rank 3 Hitmonkey, who was absolutely brilliant, and I recommend to anyone who's maybe struggling with that quest or to find a really good counter. He's brilliant because he can do bleeds himself. He doesn't have to rely on the reparries. I think that's another big thing. Not only is it a narrow champ selection, but I think the fact that you're relying on reparries, it sounds simple in thought, like, oh, just nail your reparries. This is great practice for reparrying in general and encouraging people to learn to reparry. Brilliant. But then when the AI gets annoying, it gets very frustrating trying to build that, and you're taking a lot of block damage constantly trying to bait out reparries. For example, I had a lot of situations where I go to block to bait them into the first hit, which they're stun immune to, and then I go for the parry. Yeah, that's how a reparry works. But they don't necessarily do the second hit. They do the first hit and then they decide, let me launch a heavy. Let me do it again. Let me do it a third time. And they keep doing it. So you just get backed up, you take loads of block damage, you want to throw your phone in the bin. Yeah, it's it's not one I'm a bigger fan of. So I think overall I enjoyed most of it, but I think that particular quest, I would widen the pool from just, the Mercs and the others that they put in there, because I felt it was a bit of a narrow pool. And then I would also look at reworking that global, because that's the one that stood out to me as really, really annoying. But on the whole, I found it positive. I know a lot of others have as well. It's funny because the general opinion of people when it first dropped was not happy, but then I've actually seen a lot more positive than negative recently. A lot of people saying unpopular opinion, I enjoyed it, but it's starting to seem like the popular opinion. So it's a step in the right direction to make CAV-EQ a bit, less repetitive, switch it up from the class brackets to actual champion pools, and that way force you to be more likely to use different champions. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I think I've gone on long enough about it. So those are my thoughts for anyone who stayed along thus far. But yeah, and that will be all for this video. So take care, and I will see you in the next one.